So you've made a decision and you're going to build a mobile app. And that's awesome. I'm not going to give you reasons why building a mobile app is a great idea. This is a more practical guide. I'm going to show you how to build a mobile app. Your app will either be serving your business or it will be the core of your business. Either way, it's your business. You can't just hand it off to a developer and say, cool, glad that's taken care of. Only you know your business. So whether or not you're writing a single line of code, you need to be intimately familiar with how your app works. It might be that you're going to hire a developer or even an agency to put your app together for you, or maybe you're going to give it a try yourself with some of the no-code tools available today. Either way, this video is going to go through some of the core components that every app needs to have and that you need to understand as a business owner. Your database is the heart of your app. Everything else is essentially just a replaceable ephemeral layer. But if you lose your database, you lose your business. So it's definitely important to give this some thought. Unless you're doing this on a really large scale, a managed database is usually the way to go. There's lots of options to choose from. It's normally good to pick one that can give you snapshots and backups whenever you want. And ideally a database that doesn't make migration away from that provider too much of a challenge. Some examples of managed databases would be things like Firestore from Google, some of the Amazon offerings like RDS or DynamoDB, Supabase, Mongo Atlas. This topic could take a video for itself, but it's important to be confident in the choice of database provider you go with and to be familiar with them. The main point I'm trying to get across is this. Your database is the lifeblood of your business. So you should know where your database lives, take it seriously, know how the data is structured, and know what is and what is not being saved. Backend is a word that's often confused. Oftentimes there are administrators who are adding content or performing tasks on an admin panel that serve an application. But that admin panel is not what the backend actually is. Your backend basically always lives in the cloud, and it's just code that's being run on a server somewhere. It'll be written in a backend language like Python, PHP, C#, JavaScript, Java, Go, Elixir, Rust, there's a ton. But your backend doesn't actually need to live even in the same physical place as where your database lives. Although it'll interact with the database a lot, so it is better for it to be physically closer. It's usually exposed to your user's smartphone using an API, which is just a word to describe how one computer talks to another over the internet. In this case, your phone is talking to a server via an API using the internet. Backend code performs business logic. Business logic is actually a translation of what your business does, how your business solves customers' problems into code. It's really important that you understand what your backend does and also where it lives and why it exists. Okay. Now we can talk about having fun designs and fancy buttons and cool animations. This is your app itself, the thing that lives directly on your user's phone. First, I'm going to mention a bias that people tend to have when using mobile applications. And that's that if your app looks good, people will assume that it is good. And so if you have the best development team in the world, but your designer is terrible, that's how people are going to judge your mobile application. With a good-looking app, it actually takes a little bit longer before your users realize that the app is coded badly and that it's buggy and that it's crashing all the time and not saving data and is generally a nightmare to use. That said, the front end is what your users see. This is composed of UI, user interface, which is things like the design and layout, fonts, colors, and you also have UX, which is the journey that the user takes as they explore the functionality of your app. This is the part where you'll start hearing terms like Flutter, React Native, Java, Objective-C, Swift. These are mobile-specific technologies that create UIs. But it's really important that if, for example, you're hiring a developer and they are, for example, a React Native or a Flutter developer, that doesn't necessarily mean that they understand backend APIs, integration, databases. So do be very careful and don't assume this. You probably want your users to be able to sign up and log into your app, right? You'll basically always be using a managed provider for this. There's loads of them out there: Clerk, Auth0, Supabase, Firebase, AWS Cognito. And some backend frameworks like Django in Python will also provide an authentication framework for you. But if you're hiring a developer, the really important thing is not to let them roll out their own authentication. It's very, very dangerous, and security is a very important thing. So just use a provider and let them take care of it for you. Don't forget about email. You need to be able to send your users an email if, for example, they've forgotten their password or if they've just signed up to your app. You need a provider for this as well. There are a lot of great providers with some free tiers such as SendGrid or Postmark, Mailgun, AWS SES. There's a few to choose from, and it doesn't always cost you money depending on the size of your app. Storage is also a concern. First, you'll have backups of your database, which you really should be keeping. But you'll also have user-generated content such as images, documents, videos. If your app relies on this, as many apps do, you need to think about where these things are being stored. And again, there's a lot of great options, but it's just something to bear in mind as well. Some kind of generative AI is increasingly popular feature of mobile applications these days. And since they're just based normally on APIs from places like Google and OpenAI, it doesn't have to break the bank to have some type of AI incorporated into your application. Just be sure that your AI feature is actually serving some kind of purpose for your users, and it's not just incorporated in the app because it's trendy at the moment. When the first version of your application is ready, you'll need to submit it to either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or both. There are some other providers as well, but those are the two main ones. Now, there's a lot of compliance data that you have to enter into both of the app stores, and it's generally advisable that you do this yourself. You can get some help if you need it, but it's really important that you own your own App Store accounts, because this is to do with your business. It's not really a technological decision, and it's better that you understand the legalities of your application. The other thing to remember is that if you have a deadline or anything like that, you need to allow time for your application to be reviewed. It can take anywhere from a few hours to sometimes a few weeks before your application will be approved, so always bear that in mind. Okay, thanks so much for watching to the end of the video. I know that was a lot of stuff to get through, but if there's a topic that I went through here today that you'd like to see a future video about, please just drop a comment on the video. And if you found the content generally helpful, it'd be really amazing if you could like and subscribe. And in general, if you have an app idea that you'd like to discuss directly with me, I will leave information about how to do that in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.